Seven Dwarfs Mine Train is located at Magic Kingdom at one of the Walt Disney World parks in Orlando, Florida. This coaster has, well, as the title suggests, its pros and cons. And in this video, we're going to be running through those exact pros and cons. And with those pros and cons, we'll run through the entire ride experience. This coaster opened back in 2014, so it is a pretty new attraction to bolster Magic Kingdom's family coaster lineup. With that being said though, this Vekoma coaster leads me to the first con, and that is that it doesn't really fill any gaps in the park's lineup. Now, this coaster is different from Big Thunder Mountain Railroad, but in a lot of ways, these two mine trains are extremely similar. They both have mountains that they twist in and out of, and they both feel pretty similar. The one main difference actually leads me to the first pro of this ride, and that is its dark ride scene. The animatronics in this section of the ride are really strong, and probably some of the better ones Disney has done. I wish there was more of this section, because it does feel pretty short-lived, but still, it's really awesome. But to get to that, you have to go through a couple of not so good sections in my opinion. The first part of the attraction is just a slow moving section with a couple of small dips and turns. I guess it gets the ride going, but it doesn't really do too much, and this leads me to my next con, the pacing. The pacing in the first area especially just isn't all that great in my opinion. And you know, it is a family coaster, so I'll cut it some slack there. After this short section, you come into the aforementioned dark ride scene, which, as I touched on earlier, is really quite a fantastic dark ride scene. You then come out of the mountain and come to the ride's big plunge, which, according to RCDB, is only about 40 feet tall. And you barely exceed 30 miles an hour. I bet that the top speed of this ride is probably at the bottom of that main drop. From here, you wind around a couple of turns before coming to a stop at the brake run. And this is an interesting part because I really wish that they had done another dark ride scene here. It's kinda cool what they did on the brake run, and it's certainly better than just staring at some rocks, but I do wish there was another full-fledged dark ride scene. If there had been another dark ride scene like the one earlier in the ride, this attraction would seriously be top 10 worthy at the Walt Disney World Resort. But as it stands right now, I can't quite put it that high, because, con number 3, it feels a little short. It actually isn't that short for coaster standards, but both coaster sections, the beginning of the ride and the end of the ride, are pretty short. So that's a bummer. But let's end with a couple of more pros for Seven Dwarfs Mine Train. First of all, I want to talk about how the seats move back and forth. You don't really notice it all that much, but it is a cool moment when it does decide to work. And also, throughout the entire ride, it is extremely smooth. I think that is this coaster's biggest strength. That's something that Thunder Mountain and Space Mountain aren't necessarily. Thunder Mountain isn't rough, I would say, but it's not smooth like Seven Dwarfs Mine Train is. And there's really no hint of rattle or roughness at all during the experience. So that's something I greatly appreciate. If this ride was shaky, it would not be as good. But because of how smooth it is, you can enjoy it even if there isn't anything too crazy element-wise. It might sound like I'm bashing this coaster a lot, but I do enjoy it. It's probably a top 15, definitely top 20 ride in the Walt Disney World Resort. And I know some people that had a much greater appreciation for it. So overall, it's time to give Seven Dwarfs Mine Train a final score, and I'm going to give it a 7.5 out of 10. If I were to put this coaster into one word, I would say decent, because as this video was about, there are a lot of pros and cons with the attraction. You have to include the dark ride scene when you're talking about this ride, because I think it's actually one of the better dark ride scenes on any Disney ride. And that is the highlight of this Vekoma family coaster for me. And I do love what they were able to do here with this scene. So in general, I think you should ride this coaster when you're at Magic Kingdom. At the end of the day, even with its cons, it's still a pretty fun coaster. So those are my thoughts on Seven Dwarfs Mine Train at Disney's Magic Kingdom, and the pros and cons for this ride. As far as comparing it to the other coasters in the park goes, I do prefer Thunder Mountain and Space Mountain, but Seven Dwarfs is still very enjoyable. So that's going to do it for now. Thank you all for watching, and I'll see you all next time.